Okay, AngularJS is a structural framework for implement the dynamic applications, and it supports MVC framework and custom directives, filters, and okay services, and unit testing very easy. And HTML, use HTML as a template language. You can create templates in our AngularJS form application. Use the templates. Okay, we can create templates creates in our application, and we can use the templates in our okay in our forms. And if you want to display some template in any application in any form, you can use the template. So here is the features to support AngularJS. Okay, support MVC framework. Angular support MVC framework and declarative user interface and data models and custom directives and filters, DOM manipulation, service, factory, and unit testing. So this is the 8 important features using AngularJS. Support MVC framework. MVC framework means there is a separation of concerns. Separation of concerns means we can separate our code into the different forms like model, view, and controller. MVC is model, view, controller. In model, using model, we can interact with the database. Okay, model is used for interact with the database, and view is our user interface forms, and C controller is um, bridge between the view and model. Okay, if you request for any web form, okay, that request taken from user into the controller give the request to the model and get the data from database and give that result to the view controller view form. And declarative user interface and user interface our HTML forms and data models to data models we can use uh, third-party libraries, and we can interact with the database using data models. And custom directives, in AngularJS we can create custom directives. Already predefined directives is there, number of predefined directives in AngularJS. So if you want to create one custom directory, you can create custom directory also. And filters, so you can filter your data. Okay, if you want to display some data from database, you can filter the data using filters. And DOM manipulation and service factory. Okay, this service factory and custom directives very important in AngularJS. And unit testing and very easy to implement our AngularJS application. So here we have to download the AngularJS uh, from angularjs.org website. So here AngularJS versions is there. So here you can click on first first 1.50 or 1.2.29. Okay, you can see the CDN file here. Okay, CDN file, or if you select zip file, you can download the zip file, AngularJS zip file, or you can use this CDN file. Okay, ajax.googleaps.com. Okay, actually AngularJS developed by Google. Okay, so total Google is developed by AngularJS. So you can use this CDN only from Google APIs. ajax.googleaps.com. Ajax lives AngularJS 1.5.0 version. This is the version for AngularJS, and angular.min.js file we have to use. So you don't download. Okay, you don't want. So you can download using zip file. Okay, select zip file, zip zip format here, and you can download here. Otherwise, if you don't want to download the total zip file, you can use only the CDN file. Okay, like jQuery. Okay, in jQuery also we are using script file, right? Okay, CDN file. So here we can use CDN from Google APIs like below. Okay, so here module. So this is the very important concept, module, and module and directives are very important concepts here. A module is as a container for the different parts of your application. Okay, different from different parts we can combine using modules. Okay, controllers and services and filters, directives, and etc. Using this module, we can combine our different parts of application into single file. Okay, we can combine. Angular apps don't have a main method. Okay, we don't have any main method to run the application. Only module is there. Using that module, we can execute total application. So in this application in AngularJS, we have controllers, services, and filters, directives, and number of um, services is there. From all these services, we can execute only one module. Okay, instead modules declaratively specify how an application should be bootstrapped. The declarative process is easier to understand. Okay, this module we can declare, okay, in easy to understand. You can package code as reusable modules. Okay, uh, we can write our code uh, reusable modules. The modules can be loaded in any order. Okay, in any order we can write different blocks of code using this module. Okay, total entire application based on this module only. Okay, modules, because modules delay execution. Okay, unit test only have to load relevant modules, which keeps them fast. Okay, end-to-end test can use modules to override configuration. So here some prefixes is there in AngularJS. Angular prefixes names of public objects with a single dollar and private double dollar. Okay, private names. public objects with single dollar and names of private objects with double dollar. Okay, please do not use that single dollar and double dollar in your code. Okay, we don't need to use single dollar or double dollar. So already if you use any services in your code, already uh, mentioned in services, so you don't to use dollar or double dollar. So this is the heart of application. Model is the heart of application. Using this model we can execute total entire application. Okay, we can combine all controllers, services, okay, and directives, entire thing. So this is the root part for execute the AngularJS application. So here AngularJS directives. These directives are very important concepts in AngularJS. Okay, AngularJS directives are extended HTML attributes. Okay, with the prefix ng hyphen. Okay, directives means attributes. Okay, if you see here some example, so here in creating one text box, type equal to text and id text name, and here is the text box, right? For this text box we can apply directive, AngularJS directive. So here directives are HTML attributes. Okay, using ng hyphen, okay, model, and you can give the some variable. Okay, these are the scope variables. So AngularJS directives are extended HTML attributes. Okay, directives are attributes, HTML attributes with the prefix ng hyphen. Okay, this is also one attribute. So used here ng hyphen. Any directive, okay, use must and should, we have to use ng hyphen for any directive. Ng means AngularJS directive. This is the core collection of directives you could use in your template code to build an AngularJS application. Okay, this is very core part application. So first directive here, to run the AngularJS application. Okay, to run the AngularJS application, first directive, you have to initialize AngularJS application using ng app directive. Use this directive to auto bootstrap an application. Okay, auto bootstrap. The ng app directive designates root element of the application and is typically placed near the root element of the page. Okay, here this is the root element of our application. Okay, we can give this ng app directive in HTML element or, okay, HTML element or body element. So here I am creating one AngularJS application. Okay, AngularJS form. Okay, doc type HTML, creating one form, HTML form, HTML. Okay, AngularJS is some difficult. If you understand AngularJS, it is very easy. difficult and very easy AngularJS. So here head section, and here body section. Okay, I'm saving this. Okay, here saving ngapp.html. Okay, so first of all we need to specify AngularJS application. Okay, this is the simple example to define the AngularJS application directive ng app. So in HTML element we can give here ng app equal to here application name. You have to give here my app. My app is your application name. Any name you can give here. Okay, any name you can give here. I am given only my app. So you can define the AngularJS application. Okay, ng app directive here in HTML element or in body element. Okay, anywhere you can uh, define AngularJS application. Okay, in HTML it is very useful to run the entire application in AngularJS. Okay, total HTML form will execute in AngularJS application. So this is the simple example for create AngularJS application. Okay, to define the AngularJS application. So this is the first directive to start the AngularJS application. Okay, ngapp attribute represents an AngularJS directive named ngapp. This directive is used to flag the HTML element that Angular should consider to be the root element of our application. Okay, this HTML element is the root element of our application. Okay, so here this is the syntax. So here next directive is ng controller. Once you use this ng app, okay, ng app directive, next thing must and should you have to use ng controller directive. Okay, ng controller directive is must and should after implement the ng app. Ng controller directive attach an controller class to the view. Okay, class to the view. Okay, ng controller directive defines the application controller. Okay, this is the total controller. Okay, this is attached to the controller to the view. uh, so using this controller we can get the data from database, or we can read the data from any service. Okay, service to the view, we can read the data from any service and display data in our HTML forms. Okay, our HTML forms is the views. So after implement the AngularJS application, you have to implement ng controller also. ng controller, and here you can give controller name myctrl. So here also you can give any name. Okay, for controller syntax like this. Okay, HTML A controller is a JavaScript object created by the standard JavaScript object constructor. So this is the syntax for defining AngularJS controller. And next important directive is model. Okay, model. Using this model, bind our HTML elements data into the uh, bind our HTML data into the this model variable. Okay, ng model directive binds the value of HTML controls. Binds the value of HTML controls means our HTML, any HTML control like text box, drop down list or checkbox list. Okay, and any text area. Okay, and drop down list, radio button list, any control. From any control we can bind the data into the ng model directive. Using this ng model directive, so saving our HTML elements data into some variable. Okay, here created one text box. Okay, input type equal to text, and here used here ng model. Okay, directive, ng model directive equal to first name. Okay, this is the one scope variable. Okay, in AngularJS scope variables are very important. Ng model equal to first name, and here created AngularJS ng model directive, and remaining are normal HTML attributes ID and placeholder and required. So using this ng model directive, uh, save the text box value into this first name. Okay, this ng model directive save the text box value into this first name variable. Okay, this is the scope variable. Okay, save the text box value into this. So here creating one text box, input type equal to text, and ng model equal to f name. Okay, first name, placeholder first name. Okay, and creator one text box also. Okay, these are the most important things to create the one HTML, one AngularJS form. Okay, AngularJS application, AngularJS controller, AngularJS model. This model saves the HTML, okay, text box value into this variable. So if you want to display text box value in any span or div element or paragraph, use this, okay, fname, this scope variable, and display in any paragraph. So here I'm running this example. Okay, AngularJS application form is executed here, and text box also opened. So here one AngularJS text is there. This text is saved in AngularJS module. Okay, this ng module holds this text into this fname, holds this data into fname. If you don't want to create any controller using script, no need to mention, okay, AngularJS application name and controller also. Okay, so I will show you. Okay, and next directive is ng bind directive. This ng bind directive used to display the uh, uh, display the data, used to display data uh, in any HTML elements. Okay, ng bind directive tells AngularJS to replace the text content of the specified HTML element with the value. Okay, for display the data, use ng bind directive. So in this example, okay, saving this text box value into this first name. This fname variable hold the text box value, and here I want to display this text box value into span. So here I have to use ng bind directive. Okay, ng bind directive to display text box value here. So here use f name. Okay, same variable we have to use here. Okay, which text box value you want to display here, so use that ng model variable in ng bind directive. Okay, ng bind directive to display bind the data, so from text box to this span. So here executing. Okay, here not displaying data. So when here when I'm typing any text here, display data into text box. Here we are not implement total AngularJS application, just created one simple application here. Okay, we did not created controllers. Okay, controllers is the heart of the application, AngularJS application. So here we did not created controllers, so no need to use here AngularJS application. We are not creating AngularJS modules, so just only application created, and controller also not important here. Just we can use directives. So here um, one mistake we are, there is some mistake is here. That mistake is we did not call the okay AngularJS application, okay AngularJS CDN file. So must and should we have to call CDN file here. So here copy this CDN file, and use script tag and source equal to okay script. So here you can see AngularJS. Okay, when I'm typing here in text box, okay, in span also displayed here. See here Internally, AngularJS calls these classes EngValid, EngDirty, EngValid parse, and EngNotEmpty, and EngNotTouched. Okay, these classes will apply okay internally. And here internal AngularJS application binds this ng model value into this ng bind variable. Okay, for this applied here class ng binding class. Okay, using this ng binding class displayed okay our text box value into text box into span element. Okay, here if you use here AngularJS application name my app and here ng controller. Okay, my ctrl. Here output will not work here, so here not displaying here because we need to create AngularJS application module and controller also. Here mentioned controller name. Okay, and controller name and application name. If you mention here application name and controller name, must and should you have to create AngularJS application module and controller also. So otherwise for simple examples we don't need this controller and this application name also. This is the simple application, so that's why we did not implementing AngularJS application and controller. Okay, here it is working here. Okay, these directives are very important. Okay, Angular application, controller, and ng bind and ng model. Okay, these are very important. These four modules are very important. Okay, if you use here ng controller and ng app, you need to create AngularJS application and controller. Okay, if you use here, if you define AngularJS application and controller name, you should create AngularJS application and module and controller also. Here use script tag to implement AngularJS application module and controllers. Script, here we need to create AngularJS application module app equal to angular dot angular dot module. Here we have to give application name my app, and this square bracket is you have to use other third-party services and any service you are using here in application you have to mention in square bracket. Now we are not using any services, so given empty square bracket. So this is the AngularJS application module. Okay, this is very important to run the application. Okay, here already explained here in modules part. Okay, in module as a container. Okay, this is the container for different parts of your application: controllers, services, and filters, directives. So using this application variable, you can combine total controllers and services. Okay, anything. So here we need to create one controller also, controller, and here my ctrl and function. In function we need to mention scope variable. Okay, this scope variable is for getting the scope variables from view and apply the data into the scope variables. Okay, the scope variable, the scope service get the scope values from our view. Okay, this is our view. Okay, getting the scope variables into this controller, and we can apply uh, values into scope variables using this scope variable. If you want to access this scope variable fname into controller, we have to use scope dot fname. Okay, scope dot fname. If you want to access scope variables into controller, we must and should we need scope variable. Here giving AngularJS some string into this text box. Okay. If I run this application, uh, first time display AngularJS text in text box, and here span also. In span also binding this value into this span. So here, okay, data applied from controller. Okay, like this we have to implement AngularJS applications, controller and modules. Okay, this is the module and this is the controller for AngularJS application. Using this controller, we can display or we can apply a, data into the view. Okay, display data into the view. Okay, we can access okay scope variables into controller, and we can assign some unique data into the scope variables. Okay, scope.fname equal to AngularJS. This is the text into fname. So you can change here. Okay, JavaScript. So first time default values here applied. So from next time onwards we can change here.